All right, we're back after a couple weeks in hiatus.
Hiatus?
Yes,
You're looking
hiatus.
very. You got a bit of a upgrade. You're a bit sun kissed, living out there
Yes,
in
I'm.
beautiful Phuket. You're in
Yes,
Phuket
you're
right
right.
now. Is the beach behind you? Have you opened that? Have you opened that curtain behind you? Is there a beach? That's like my
No,
main
there's not a
question.
beach, but there could be one of those. Those places. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say, but it's. I'm not living in
One of
the.
those
I'm not living
lovely
in the
places.
richest area. That's what I'm just
Oh,
saying
you're in
right
the
now.
streets. You're in the streets.
Exactly. I'm
All
in the
right, all
streets,
right,
man.
all
I'm in
right,
the
all
streets. I'm
right.
not in the resorts. All
If
right.
you
So
open
if
that
anybody
window,
thinking,
if you open the window, you're gonna see some things. That's like
exactly.
if you haven't been to Thailand before, you're probably not gonna know what you're gonna see. But if you've been to Thailand, if you open that window, you're gonna see some things.
Yeah,
I know
definitely.
exactly what you mean. I've lived in Thailand for a long period of time. I know what you mean.
Yeah, you need to learn about the area first. You know what I mean? You can't just go out there and think you're gonna go explore and run into
Mm-mm,
some
mm-mm,
propositions, so to say.
mm-mm,
Um,
mm-mm.
can't talk about it. We're married. We're married men. There's nothing to say, anyways. Um,
There's nothing in Thailand.
and there is nothing. Don't come here. Um, well, yeah, man. Let's talk a little bit about that. Yeah, like I started on Monday on my 6 month journey to
Six
taking
months to the cage.
to the cage. Exactly, 6 months to the
What a
cage.
beautiful process.
It is going to be a great process, and I do have like my own coaches. You know what I mean, like coaches for this team, and they have kind of like a plan laid out for me. So I'm just following, what they tell me, and hopefully I make it
Yeah,
through.
that's like the beauty of having good coaches is you can just put your trust into them and just show up every day and trust that that's like guided. You get that's like the main thing is like you get like a lot of young fighters like, Dan, like what should I do? I'm like, just listen to like whatever your coach tells you to do, like do that. It's like if you got a good coach, you can trust them, like follow what your coach says and do what they say and trust what they say. And because like a young fighter needs to believe that whatever they're being told by their coaches is the right thing to do. Well, I know full well you've got good coaches there in Bangtao MMA out there in Phuket, so you're in good hands.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so important. But we'll see, man. It's only been a week. The body was sore, and did some things that I've never done before.
Oh,
I've
oh,
never, I never rode a assault bike ever in the past. This was the
oh
first
yeah.
time. Yeah, and I, c- it's it's pain, but at the same time, it's like you almost think like if I could overcome this assault bike and do this bike for a while, I feel a little bit more like a man. You know what I mean? Or not like a man,
That's
but more of
like
a man.
that's like the best that's like the best I feel like workout tool because it's not like too like it's exhausting and you can push hard and you get like super fatigued, but those assault bikes are not like super hard on your body if you do them like
Mhm.
repetitively. Like obviously when you do anything at first, like whether it be push ups, like jump squat, whatever it is, for like the first couple of weeks or the first month, like it's hard, right? But your body adjusts to it and adapts to it. Like that's a good thing about those assault bikes, is that you can like during a training camp, you can have like a good hard session on one, and then like do it in the morning, and by that afternoon or the next day, like you're recovered. I feel like sprinting hill sprints are like my
Mhm.
favorite. I feel like if I'm gonna get in shape, like sprinting up a hill, that's like my favorite. But you're gonna feel it like that afternoon. You're gonna feel it the next day. You're gonna feel it the day after that. You're probably still gonna feel it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And if you're training every day, multiple times a day, you can't afford to take a day off, 2 days off,
Yeah.
3 days off. You can't afford to do it. So like those assault bikes are good because you're allowed to like push hard. You can get super fatigued, but like your recovery from them, especially if you use them regularly, is like super quick. That's why they're so handy and so such a useful tool during fight camp.
Yeah. I gotta get used to it. So hopefully, I do get used to
You're
that
still in the
assault
adjustment
bike.
phase. That's like you're like, yo,
Exactly.
we're one week, we're like on one weekend, yeah, body's pretty sore. I'm like, it's gonna get way worse than this. It's gonna
Yeah.
get you're sore now. It's like, brother, you're about to you wait till you actually
Yeah.
start falling apart.
And yeah, and my the whole thing is just like getting used to getting punched in the face. Like that's the part where it's like, I don't know how I'm gonna get used to that, but I have to eventually be able to
Comes
just
with
look
it,
straight
comes
at
with
somebody and punch and take a punch. You know what I mean?
it.
It's hey, I don't know. That's gonna be the hard part, but I'm pretty sure as the weeks go, I'm gonna figure out,
So
find other things to complain about.
you're like vlogging it, right? Like we're the vlogs for that. Are they you posting them out? Are you gonna just do it at the end, like post it out as like a complete journey, or are you just gonna post it out as it's happening?
Well, right now I'm writing like daily blogs. So if you go to the AllStar, the website for the for the AllStar, at the top it's right there. Everything. I'm just writing whatever I feel.
I hold
Bless
my
you.
sneezes like I hold my emotions on the inside.
That's like self torture right there a little bit.
I hold them in. I hold in my sneezes like I hold
Yeah.
my emotions.
What
They're
was I
mine.
saying? What was I saying? Forgot.
Before I distract you. They're on the AllStar, the daily vlogs.
Yeah. It's good daily vlogs, and then I put out weekly vlogs. So I like film stuff during the week, and I'll just put them out every Monday night
Sick,
here, Monday morning in
sick.
over there in the US. And then when I get into fight camp, then I'm gonna bring in somebody to film me and to edit
Have
it, make
to,
it
have
look
to.
all like cinematic and beautiful. And we'll see what happens with all of that stuff.
Sick.
But yeah, it's great, man. It's a I don't know. I'm already thinking from the perspective of a fighter or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm a fighter, but from a perspective, I understand because you got to think about like your food. Like there's so much stuff to think about. You know what I mean? Like,
This is the best. This is like the best. Like just having you sit there and be like, fuck, this sucks.
yeah, and then anticipating
Yeah,
like what's
good.
coming.
Welcome. Welcome.
Yeah.
Nah, give up on that. Give up on that. If there's one
Yeah.
thing I can teach you, like, nah, fuck tomorrow. Like, one day at a time.
All
One
right.
day at
All
a
right.
time.
All right. I'll do that.
You can't as a fighter, like, you honestly can't as a fighter sit there and just look at the mountain of work you're about to face. Like, you take a fight in 3 months.
Mhm.
You can't sit there and think, like, okay, oh man, oh, and then I've got that, and then that, and then that, and then that. Like it just will be endless. Like you actually drive yourself crazy. Like just take it. It's a day at a time. Like what day is it? What have I got tomorrow? Like you wake up in the morning, bang that out. Like get your routine down. The
It
best friend
is.
for fighters is a routine. That's why most of us eat the same thing every day. Like it's routine. Routine. Choose away those days, man. Just yeah. Don't look at the mountain of work. Just take it a day at a time. Eat.
Yeah.
I call it eat what's on your plate. Eat what's on your plate.
All right. Focus, and concentrate. And yeah, man. Like this week, I did like mostly fitness, and then next week, mix it up with some jujitsu, and then after
Mm,
that, start adding more and more. And then
mm,
eventually, I'll be ready for a fight camp, and then get into a fight camp.
boom.
6 weeks probably would be good since I will be already training. It all depends on like
Yeah,
where I'm gonna fight and who I'm gonna fight. I guess what date they want me to
yeah,
fight. But
yeah.
yeah, probably around September, August, or something like that. So follow that along, you
Whew.
guys, on this YouTube page. So make sure to subscribe to that. Anyways, let's jump into it. UFC 273. It was an incredible card. All three fights were good fights. Let's start with the main event. Volkanovski goes in there. I feel like that was the best performance he's had in the UFC, and this is as the champion. Right? It seems like he's just getting better. Um, what did you see? What did you see in this fight? I know you picked, of course, Volkanovski, but what did you see in this fight? Like,
Yeah, like
especially in
even
the striking.
hands off as like a teammate or anything like that. Like sitting back and looking, I was just thinking like stylistically, like how does Korean Zombie have any kind of advantage? Like and considering like Korean Zombie is pretty similar style to the style that Volkanovski just fought, right? And I saw his performance against Brian Ortega, like a tall, standing guy that's going to look to box and then uses jiu-jitsu off his back. Like they're the stylistically that's the same, but I would say Korean Zombies like more experienced, less athletic, version of that. So I was trying, like, sitting there, and I saw the way that he handled Ortega and just absolutely battered him, you know. So I was kind of anticipating that same kind of performance, and we got exactly that. Then it come down. It was pretty much a seminar, right? If there's 12 minutes of fighting and a guy doesn't even get hit, that's a pretty incredible performance. And just, you can watch it, man. You can sit there and watch it, like, just the variation of everything that Volkanovski was throwing. Like, he had his leg hurt, and then he moved on back to the jab, and then he starts cracking him with the right hand, wobbles him, drops him, had him stumbling, goes for the takedown. Like, he just dominated every aspect of that fight, bell to bell, which was just absolutely it was an incredible performance. Like, I had that chalked down as like, I watched the whole card. That was definitely my performance of the night. Like, that was just outstanding.
Yeah, it was just an incredible performance, and people don't forget, man. Like, they need to not forget that he's flying all the way across the world and doing this. You know what I mean? I feel like that kind of gets lost in the mix. Flying long distances and fighting and performing well every single time. You know what I mean? Like, even when he wasn't feeling well, he still kind of gutted it out. That second Holloway fight, there was a lot of stuff going on in that one. And even the fight where like the Darren Elkins fight where he hurt his rib during fight week when he was rolling with somebody, but they had to mask all that and then go in there and fight Darren Elkins, who takes a tremendous amount of damage, and went in there and dominated him. Yeah, this fight, like, the jab was incredible. Volkanovski, did the Korean Zombie just not have enough head movement? Because his jab was just hitting. He would jab
But
like
he's
straight,
never,
like
like,
straight down.
who's like, he's the reason he's called the Korean zombie is because he
Yeah.
eats like a lot of punches and walks forward. It was almost like, I was kind of laughing at it. I was like, Volk's definitely got his rangefinder. Like, he's got his jab. Like, he's finding his range off his jab. You look at Korean zombie and you're like, I was like sitting there thinking, is his face his jab? I was like, he's just eating it and then, like, using that as like his rangefinder, was like you punching him in the face. I was like, you probably shouldn't use your own face as a jab. Like, I don't think that's the best jab you could possibly find.
It's watching him, like, eat the jab, and I feel like he has gotten better. It's just like all of it is timing. I mean, he went through the 3 years of military stuff, and then he had all the injuries and surgeries and missing out time with that. You know what I mean? Just recovering from those types of procedures. And I feel like if he would have went over to to the US and maybe trained with Eddie Chaw much earlier in his career, maybe he would be in a different position. But I just think that he's just missing that one piece to win a title. Like, and he's getting older,
Oh man,
and
like,
his style.
it's stylistically, like, it's
Yeah.
it's style at that point. Like, if you don't have the style to beat the champ, like, I just feel like that's a poor style to have against Volk.
Mhm.
Is that exact style that Korean Zombie has, that Brian Ortega has. I just don't feel like that's Ortega come close. He come a lot closer than I thought he would. But yeah, like, stylistic, like, his style has a huge part to do with it. Like, say Ortega finished that triangle, you know what I mean? Say he finished that guillotine and then he was the champ, and then Korean Zombie come and he fought Brian Ortega. Like, that to me is a close fight. Like, that is like a good fight for a title. You know what I mean? Like, that's a winnable fight for the Korean Zombie. So it's just, man, so much of this game comes down to timing and opponent and style. It's like, more goes into it than just 1+1 = 2. Like, that's yeah, bulk smash.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. It is. Where does the Korean Zombie go from here? People, of course, they're gonna jump on him and dump on him and say, like, he should retire or whatever. But I feel like that's his choice. Um, what is it? Him, like, his body, he's been through so much, right? And I feel like he took this title shot even though he was injured, because if he didn't take it now, you probably will never
Nah, it's
end up fighting
title,
for it.
title shot's a title shot. You could
Exactly.
catch me on one leg, offer me a title shot. Like I'm gonna take a title shot. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
that's like a one opportunity to change your life. That's entirely on him. You know, people are funny, bro. They're just gonna internet men are funny. They're gonna say what they're gonna say. You know what I mean? Like you can just take it or you can just leave it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, he can do whatever he wants to do. It's just we'll play this game. It's an incredibly risky game. You can keep. It's like being a professional roller coaster rider. You know,
Mhm.
it's like there's gonna come a day that you get sick of getting the itch to get on a roller coaster, and you just sit back and you're just happy. You know what I mean? But it's up to him when that day comes.
What is the X Games gonna have professional roller coastering? Like, what is
I'm
that
sure
gonna?
that's a thing. I'm sure that's a thing. I'm sure I watched it. Nah, there's no shit. I'm sure I watched like a YouTube. Maybe it's not like like you professionally ride the roller coaster, but I'm saying like this is a thing. No, this is where I saw it. Guy was like he was a professional roller coaster rider, and he would go down. He would go around, and he would ride a roller coaster, and then he like ranks it. Like he's just like, oh yeah, I like that second, buddy. I like that second twist with the third spin. Yeah, that was like had my adrenaline. You know, he would analyze a roller coaster. A professional roller coaster rider. It's a thing. If you don't know, maybe just YouTube it. You'll
Yeah,
find
definitely
out it's a
will.
thing.
Well, hey, that's not a bad job. I
Hey,
wonder what the
it's not
life
a bad
expectancy
gig.
rate is.
You know what
Yeah,
I
it's not.
mean?
It's not. It's
It
like
can't be good for
professional
you.
video game player or
Can't be
something
good
like
for
that.
you.
You know what I mean? Like, we'll
No,
see. We'll see.
I'm not sure that will be my thing. Like sitting on the one spot for that long, I think it'll be difficult.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not a video game type of guy either. Too
Hey,
much. You know what I mean?
everyone, pick your thing. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I got my thing. You do your thing. We'll just have a good time.
Who do you think should fight Volk next? You know what I mean? Volk says you should come and earn your
Ah, it's
spot.
Max. It's Max. Fuck
There's
up.
no hesitation.
It was booked for it. He got injured,
Yeah.
and he was sitting
Yeah.
as the backup. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it. Like, I get it. I know what he's doing by being like, see if someone, it kicks up a fuss. You know what I mean? If as soon as you book it, you wanna hear you wanna hear Holloway call for it before you. There's no reason the champ should be calling anyone out after a performance like that. So of course he's not going to get on the mic and be like, "Urgh, I want to fight Max Holloway next," because obviously he doesn't, right? Like he's already beaten him twice. Like from where he's sitting, like, and then what happened? He did that after the first. Like he did that already. Like he was like, "I want to fight Max Holloway," and then Max Holloway started acting cool. Max Holloway was the one that's just like, "Oh yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I'll go up to 55. Maybe I'll like, oh yeah, like." So now he's learned from that. I feel like you don't call out the champ. Don't call anyone out. That's not how the belt works. That's not how being a champ works. The champ sits on his hands and waits to get called out and can pick and choose when he wants to respond. So good learning, Volk. Good upgrade. Good upgrade to the system.
He knows the game. He knows the game.
He
So,
knows the game. He's improving the game, understanding the game. It's good to see.
well, let's say Max will not fight for the title next, right? I think Yair and Ortega. I
Why
think if
wouldn't he?
Yair,
Why is not Max?
because maybe he goes up to 155 and they offer him something he can't deny. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's not going to happen, and maybe they're not going to pay him enough. I don't know. Maybe he could.
Did he weigh in for this fight?
Nah, he didn't weigh in for this fight, did he?
He was the backup fighter.
No, that was all fake.
Fake?
I
The
feel like that was all
UFC
fake.
telling me the UFC lied to me?
I don't
Nah,
think
that
it
would
was the
look dumb
UFC.
though. That would look dumb if it would just look dumb. It would look dumb if like the guy pulls out, gets a replacement, and then weighs in anyway. That would be dumb. That's what they were saying was gonna happen, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, no.
yeah.
In hindsight, that would be dumb.
They're like, we have
Anyway,
options. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Volk has options. I think he could sit back for the next couple of weeks and see, what happens with a couple of the fights, and he could get booked with whoever's next in line. I don't see anybody like besides Max. I don't see anybody else like that they could just push in there. Who's coming off a win? Who's coming off a streak? You know what I mean? Like, uh, yeah, it's kind of muttered a little bit at the top.
yeah, I
We'll
feel
see.
like they're probably gonna do Max one more, and then that's what he's saying. Like the rest of the division's got to fight someone at the top
Mhm.
and earn your spot. That makes sense. That's what the
Yeah,
champ should say.
yeah, because I think Yair and then Ortega, and then they're talking about I think what's his name, Ige versus somebody else, and you got Bryce Mitchell, and then you got what's his name, Emmett. You got a bunch of guys that haven't been matched up. They need to match up some people, man. It's just it just makes no sense why the title just I think like if you're a contender, you probably
I
want to
think that's
fight.
what I think that's what Volk's saying. He's like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of guys sitting around saying, I deserve this, I
Mhm.
deserve that. Go out and fight for it. That's what he's saying on the mic. That's what he got on the mic. He's
Yeah.
like, don't sit there and tell me you earned something. Go out there and earn the spot. Do the dance. Do the thing. Get in, put these up, put the gloves on, do the thing, and earn your spot.
Yeah. Well, earn your spot. That's definitely the lesson learned. And co-main event. What'd you think of that one? You know what I mean? Like completely. I think most
Completely
people
different fight.
expect.
Completely
Yeah,
different fight.
people expected it to be different than how it panned out, and everybody knew where Aljamain's strengths were. Right, takedowns,
Like
get to the back.
that's the ability of time though. Like you have the ability to process it. Like a lot. I feel like when the fight first got matched up, there was like bad timing for Sterling. I feel like the fight would have gone exactly the way the first fight went, or even worse because it was just bad timing. You could see at the time like Arjaman Sterling couldn't deal with the fan reaction that he had from that whole ordeal. Like, which in my opinion, like the guy did nothing wrong. You know what I mean? Like the guy did absolutely nothing wrong. Like he gets kneed in the head, gets concussed. You can't continue to fight. Like he's done nothing wrong. Like he should have just gone out there and just said, look, what do you want me to do? Like carry on fighting? Be a tough guy, carry on fighting. I'm already concussed. Like the guy
Mhm.
punches me half the time, I'm gonna fall over and get knocked out. You can't fight if the guy did an illegal strike and concussed you, right? Like you get the belt. It's not your fault. Give him the rematch and run it back. You know what I mean? But that initial fan reaction that he got was kind of he was not dealing with it well. You could see by that, like he was getting a bit irked by it. He was obviously dealing with like the physical side of things, like his neck was giving him trouble. He had to have neck surgery. So I think that time away definitely changed things. Over that time, he had a bit more time to process like the fan reaction, and then so he started having fun with it, playing a bit more of a heel, and enjoying it. He had the neck surgery, which sorted out his physical, which you'll understand that when you're physically injured, like things get to you mentally a lot
Mhm.
more. Like when you're physically feeling sharp and good, your mental, like they're one and the same. Your just your physicality and your mentality are one and the same. Like they feed off each other. So I feel like just that amount of time he was able to sort his injury out. I saw him at the PI, every day, and he was working through that neck injury. He was doing everything right to get himself back to 100%. So then just having that time um, changed things. You know what I mean? You could see it on the scales when he weighed in. Like physically, he looked a lot better than
Mhm.
he's ever looked. Like physically imposing, mentally in a better place. And the only reason that is just time. Like the time shifted the weight of that fight, and he went out there, and we saw a completely different fight than the first one because just his mentality and his physicality had completely changed from that first exchange. You could see it like in the first fight. It went out. Peter Yan was the champ. Sterling was the challenger. Sterling went out like super tense and tried to force everything in that first fight. Like he tried to force the takedown, tried to force the striking, and Jan was able to just sit back and counter and this and that. But then the dynamic also had completely shifted in the second fight, where Sterling was now the champ. Jan had to now come and take the belt off Sterling, which you could see they touched gloves, and then Jan's the one pressuring forwards and forcing the fight. And then Sterling was the one able to sit back and counter and defend and take the back. And so just the dynamic, the timing, everything had completely changed from that fight. And at this elite level, like the smallest things can have a huge difference. So these are some pretty big adjustments and some pretty big shifts in the timeline of everything.
It is, man. When you look at Aljamain and like what he went through in the last year or so, it's a lot of shit to go through, you know, for a fighter to go through like a major surgery, and then you got all this backlash from winning a title. People are saying you're not the real champ, you know, you're a paper champ, whatever. And then you got Peter Yan, who actually goes out during that time, wins the fight, wins the interim belt, you know what I mean, and kind of builds his stock more and more and more. And then you're kind of dwindling down, you know, and of course you stay in the media with what you do, but I think winning solves everything. I mean, all that stuff that was happening, once you win, it's over, man. It's like you're in the record books with the W, with the belt. That's all that matters. Now it's Peter Yan's time to build himself back up now. You know what I mean? Like, and fight him again.
Yeah, like he called for a rematch. Yeah, I think they'll fight again, but he calls for a rematch. I feel like he's got to beat someone to get himself another rematch. I'm not sure. I think they'll do the Sterling Dillashaw fight. I feel like that's a sellable fight. Like when you go to the UFC with a fight, with a title fight that you want to do, it needs a storyline, right? Like then you watch a countdown, there needs to be a story. It can't just be like, oh, these two guys, yeah, they're all right. They just want to have a fight for like heaps of money. Like it's not. It needs a story. You know what I mean? And they found a guy in Sterling that will call Dillashaw out on the drug cheating.
Yeah,
Dillashaw will take it and kind of fight back and roll with it. Like that's the story of that fight, right? Like that's this guy says this guy, oh, they hate each other. Oh, now boom, like the storyline blows out of proportion for that fight, and that's what gets the UFC to approve something, give it the tick, and give it the green light. So I feel like just from that perspective of that fight being very marketable, that they're going to put that Dillashaw Sterling fight together.
The failed drug test, that's going to always be part of every countdown. I think TJ Dillashaw does, because every opponent is going to point to that as something that they can attack.
But that wasn't excusable. There's no excuse for that, brother. Like EPO, like you're joking. Like, and don't say that it's the first time. You know what I mean? You can't come to me and say like, oh, you know what? I waited until USADA got brought into play. We were getting blood tests and blood passports done on all of us, and then I decided to try EPO for the first time. Like, brother, like that's. So, fun fact: EPO is only detectable in your blood, blood passport. So USADA need to come and take blood like 2-3 times and get like because everyone's blood is different, right? Like some people have higher growth hormone, some people's testosterone is naturally higher than others. So they need to take your blood like 2 or 3 times and get like your average. So if they see a dip in that or a spike in that, they'll be able to tell. You know what I mean? Before USADA was in play, let's say if it was just the Nevada State Athletic Commission, like no blood testing, so they wouldn't blood test you. Growth hormone, EPO, the two hardest steroids out there, only detectable in blood. So every fighter could be on EPO and HDH, human growth hormone, and it never be detected before USADA got brought into play. So you're going to tell me that it's undetectable, you're not going to take it, you start getting USADA tested, this becomes detectable, and now you're going to try it for the first time or start taking it? Like, get out of here, man. Get out of here, man. Get out of here. This doesn't make sense. That just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's also like something that is extremely expensive. You know what I mean? It's not like something that you could just go buy off somebody with with a $1,500 a month job. You know what I mean? It's something that costs them cash. So yeah, it's very high, like advanced, I guess, in that community of
Very
like
advanced.
EPO
He's
and all
got a
that.
very yeah. He's got a very smart person telling him to do, oh, take this at this time, this. Like, I was feeling a bit tired from flyweight. Like, nah, come on, cuz. Come on, cuz. Now you
But
lying.
he served his time. Now he's gonna get a title shot, most likely, against Aljo.
Served his time, but you have to eat that for the rest of
Yeah.
your career, right?
Oh,
Like, you have to,
he's gonna eat it
you're
and he's gonna
labeled.
milk it, and the UFC is gonna milk it
He
as
doesn't seem
much
to
as they
care.
can.
Like,
No, he
Dillashaw,
doesn't.
yeah, Dillashaw
Yeah.
doesn't seem to care, bro.
It's not like he's crying himself to sleep thinking about that. I don't believe
Nah, I
that's the
think he's
case.
over it. I think he would
Yeah.
have. He seemed like, yeah, the double shoulder surgery, which is a
Yeah.
difficult thing. Like I was saying, like if you're physically, he's like physically not there, so I'm sure that would have been like a super tough time for him. But yeah, like you could see when he came back, he's just embraced that role. He doesn't really
Mhm.
care about any of that,
Yeah.
and he's pushing forward and moving on.
Yeah. I think that's probably the way to do it. You know what I mean? Because you fucked up. So, people are going to
That's
talk
the way
shit.
to do it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna take EPO, just
Yeah. He has a history of that, though. He takes the snake thing and turns it into his logo. That's what TJ does,
yeah,
man. That's what TJ
yeah.
does. Yeah, so with Aljo, I guess TJ is gonna be next. Who do you put him? Who do you put Jan against? Like, what is a matchup that you would like to see? Guy at
Who
bantamweight.
else is a bantamweight? Send me some. Who's another bantamweight? He just fought Sandhagen.
Yeah, he
Who's
fought
top five?
Sandhagen. Well, you got like I think Font's fighting soon. Is Font bantamweight? Yeah, Font's bantamweight.
Yeah, Fonta
Um,
bantamweight.
I thought Font would have been a good
He
matchup.
fuck. I don't know. Way.
Okay,
I don't know.
you
Way.
got
Like he's already fought Aldo.
Cruz. Would you like to see him fight Dominic Cruz?
I don't think Cruz wants that smoke. He's too
All
smart
right.
for that. You know what I mean?
Like whenever like a fighter like Jan, right? He goes on this streak and he's just beating guys after guys after guys, and then you get like an Aljo to come in and implement a style and a game plan to beat him. Do you think like fighters get exposed? Are they exposed now? Do you feel like, or is it just Aljo was
You're
able to
only
do it?
you're only exposed if you can't make any adjustments. I feel like a couple of adjustments and that fight changes big time. Like it's like that's the advantage of a rematch, right? It's like the one that had success in the first fight. It's then the advantage of the rematch is the guy that didn't have the success because he's the one that can make the adjustments. When they fight for a third time, then it's going to be PDN. I feel like with the advantage because he's going to, man, if his worked on that back escape a bit more, it's like he definitely worked on a back escape where he was kicking that leg back, but it just didn't work against Aljo. So maybe like add two or three more options, maybe two more options for his body triangle like back escape, and then also that takedown where he was kicking that leg back, sprawling, but Aljo was able to cut the angle and have the hook in to take the back already placed. Like that's from studying film. Like those are
Yeah.
some pretty small adjustments that would make a huge difference. Like imagine if Aljo couldn't sit on his back for 6 minutes of the fight. Like that changes that fight a lot. Like that changes that fight massively. So I feel like there's no way that he's been exposed or anything like that. I feel like some couple small adjustments, and he'll be good to go again for sure. But it does, losing and being exposed as you will only works if you can't adjust. Like if you can't adjust, if like a hole in your game gets found and exploited, and you can't change it or you can't adjust it, then of course. But most fighters have the ability to change it or adjust it or improve it or go away and work on that facet of your game.
And some of them, I guess, they take a little bit longer than others to make those adjustments. Some guys come back the next fight and know exactly what they made their mistakes on, make those adjustments. So whenever they get in those positions, they could, they know how to react to it much better than they would like the last fight. Other fighters, it takes a little bit longer, right? Like 2, 3, 4 fights. You have to wait until you see those types of improvements or adjustments. That's what I like to see sometimes is when fighters they lose, but they know why they lost, and then the next fight to see how they return against a completely different style of fighter that they're facing from the previous fight, and show those adjustments in that fight, which is I don't think a lot of people look at it like that, but sometimes I like to see that with fighters. But yeah, it was a very close fight. If you could go back and think about the rounds, right? Did you feel like Aljo won 3 rounds? Like if you could pick the 3 rounds, was any 10-8 rounds, do you think?
That's pretty big. Depends. Were they fighting under the new rules or the old rules? Like new rules, you give out 10-8s like a lot easier, right?
I have no idea, like what rules that they use. I don't
It's
even
so hard to
care.
follow. Like, that's like hard to follow. Like whether they're
Yeah,
fighting under the new rules or old rules, or like because they're supposed to give out 10-8s like a lot easier under the
yeah.
new rules, and they do that. Like it's so hard to keep track of and follow. Like most fight fans just actually don't care. But yeah, like there was a lot of control time in the second and third round just from those back takes and those body control. Maybe even the second round you're going to be handing out a 10-8. But I feel like Arjuman took the first, second, and third. This is from like first watch. Don't get overly angry. But I'll take Sterling in the first, second, and third.
Okay.
Peter Yan in the fourth and fifth.
And that's what I talk to some fighters and even coaches about is like, how do you beat Peter Yan? And it's to win the first 3 rounds because he's going to come out in the fourth and fifth hard and heavy. So if you you win the first 3 and you survive the last 2, you'll be able to beat him on the cards. Because I don't really see anybody. I don't really see anybody finishing Peter Yan, but Peter Yan is a guy that is tough to
I'd say
finish.
there's fighters that you can do that, like take the first 3 and then like stall the last 2. But Peter Yan is like such a hard guy to stall a fight against. Like he's so aggressive, like his pressure is so smart, like the way he moves in and out of distance and chips away, and like his pressure is incredible. So yeah, he's not like that was super difficult for Sterling. Like Sterling's plan, and obviously that the result of the way that he was killing the pressure was to shoot. Like that is exhausting. Like how many takedowns? Like 22 takedown attempts that he had.
Yeah.
Like it's ridiculous. Like he probably shot 50 times. Like they weren't counting a lot of those as like actual attempts, but like that's how he was killing Peter Yan's pressure ability to come forward was just shoot. And he shot constantly for 25 minutes. Like that is incredibly exhausting. I would say most other fighters in the division, I'd say pretty much everyone else in the division, like can't rely on that as an option. Like they just don't have the wrestling ability, the defense off of the shot, the cardio to keep up with that pace. Like that was impressive. It was a very impressive performance to watch.
Yeah, he was in incredible shape, and he used every piece of that octagon. Yeah, just even like for me, if I went out there and did 22 takedown attempts on a guy trying to defend it, I would be dead I probably wouldn't even make it to 22. I probably wouldn't even make it to 10, right? Like
Oh,
22 and
hard, hard. It's hard. That's hard.
yeah, it's
That's
hard.
hard.
Yeah.
Like good hard. That's 22 solid takedown attempts. I'm not even counting like the half shots he took in and
Yeah.
grabbed a leg or something like that.
He did really well with like switching from double to single or single to double. Like he kind of he did,
Yeah,
like you said, he did a lot of film study on Peter Yan and how he defends takedowns and stuff, and execution, man,
have to at
phenomenal.
that level. Like at that level, that's like one thing people don't understand. Like the amount of film study that
Mhm.
goes into these things, like picking up tendencies of your opponents, is it's funny, like when people sit back and they're just like, why didn't you just like it's like fuck me days. Like I've just watched 1,000 hours of this guy. Like my coaches have spent 20,000 hours studying this guy. Like we say, oh, why didn't you just take him down? It's like fuck. All
What
right.
about okay? You're in a camp, right? And then your coach has spent this time studying this guy, and then you've studied him yourself, and then 2 weeks out, poof, like your opponent is gone. Your opponent pulls out. That has to be the most frustrating thing to ever happen during a training camp, right? Besides injuries and stuff like that, but to me, that you have to toss everything
That's
out the
like the
window.
that's like the variables of the game, man. Like
Yeah.
that's just like part of it. Like you need to take you can't train for a fight like, man, this guy might pull out. Like you can't train for a fight. Like you can't get out and grind 6 days a week, 7 days a week, 3 times a day for like, oh man, I hope this guy shows up. Like you have to 100% believe like this is going down, this is going
Yeah,
down, this is going down. And when it does, like you just need to keep rolling with the punches, you know what I mean?
definitely, definitely. Now the I guess the biggest star on the card, so to say, would be Khamzat Chimaev, and a lot of people were picking him to go in there and finish Gilbert Burns. Burns did really well against Khamzat. Some people thought Gilbert Burns won that fight, and I could see why, but it was very close. It was an incredible fight, right? The first 2 rounds was pretty insane. What do you think of Khamzat and what he showed in this fight? Because this was his
Oh,
test.
bro, that was my fight of the night, hands down. But it takes two to tango. Like that was an incredible back and forth fight. Like, yeah, this is the biggest test of his career. He's getting thrown in the deep end. He definitely impressed me. Like that was definitely he definitely impressed me. Like, I don't think he was going to get past Burns. Um, and yeah, it was one hell of a fight, but he had to fight for that one. Like he wasn't. He got shown. He got shown. Human. Like everyone is human. It's funny that fans like sit back and they love to just think that there are these superhumans out there that are just levels, levels, and levels above anyone else, and they can't be beaten. I don't know why. I don't know why people get obsessed with that notion of like these unbeatable, like larger than life humans. I don't know why people get obsessed with it. Maybe it's because it gives them like a good reason to then not do it. They're like, oh man, good thing I didn't become a UFC fighter because there are these superhumans out there that are way better than everyone else. It's like, well, the reality is that there's not. There's no one is superhuman because I've been in a gym with multiple world champions. I've been in gyms like no one is superhuman. Everyone gets sick. Everyone gets tired. Everyone has bad days, good days, gets injured. These things happen, and we kind of saw that in that fight. Like, is he good? Like, oh, he's good. He beat Gilbert Burns. Like, he's incredible. Khamzat is one of the best welterweights in the world. Like, hands down. He went out there and he proved that. Like, is he superhuman though? Like, maybe we can stop with like the wild talk, maybe now we can stop with the people saying, well, he could beat Gilbert Burns, Leon Edwards, and Kamaru Usman in the same night. It's like, whoa, now at least we can chill with that.
Yeah,
Now we can at least chill with like the Superman talk. Is he
yeah,
good? For sure. One of the best in the world,
yeah,
hands down.
yeah.
Is he a god? Like, no one is, brother. No one is.
Yeah.
Everyone bleeds, everyone gets tired.
Exactly. Two things. Everyone bleeds, everyone gets tired. And once you get tired, not many options there after you get tired.
Crazy
But
fight how
hey,
it started. Like he came out, got the takedown, was dominant. I was like sitting there watching and going, "Holy shit!" I was going, but like obviously Burns like was experienced enough and had a high enough level that he was able to kind of survive that early onslaught. And then just, crazy fight. That was like one of my favorite ones. And then just probably the last 3 minutes, just Gilbert Burns going right hand happy, just throwing nothing but right hands for 3 minutes, just swinging, trying to take his head off. It was a pretty crazy fight. Some pretty wild grappling exchanges, some wild, him getting dropped, him getting dropped, back and forth. Fight of the night. Incredible performance from Khamzat. Good showing from Gilbert Burns as well. Either of them could have finished that fight.
Yeah, they both had chances, right? Man, he has a chin on him. Gilbert, he did phenomenal too. He took the fight. He took a fight where nobody wanted to, the guy that nobody wanted to fight. Yeah, credit to him.
He didn't have to take that fight. Credit to him.
No, he doesn't. He could have sat back just like everybody else is doing. And they're saying, like, I think Dana said earlier this week that if Khamzat gets past Burns, then they're gonna put him up against Colby, right? I think that's the right move, to be honest with you. Colby's sitting at number one. No, is he sitting at number? Yeah, I think he's sitting at number one. So why not have him fight Colby? Colby's the guy that's kind of like the championship gatekeeper at welterweight. I like that fight. I think that fight will be incredible, and they already have some kind of, well, who doesn't have beef with Colby? But I'm just saying, do you like that? Do you like that fight, or do you feel like there could be a possibility that Leon Edwards might get skipped over again?
Nah. I don't think so. I think Leon Usman, and then that Colby Khamzat is a good fight. That's a good fight to make.
Yeah. What do you think of that? Who do you think has? Because Colby's going to go in there and wrestle him and then strike with him.
Yeah, like we didn't really see that. Like we saw like a good striking fight in that fight. But yeah, Burns didn't really have too much success with the wrestling. I think maybe like a half a takedown, a couple good positions, a couple good reversals, but it wasn't it wasn't a guy that's going to come out there and actually try to wrestle Khamzat, because from what I can see, like, no critique, but Khamzat can't go backwards. Like that guy can only go forwards. Like that's like Gilbert's like standing there going right hand happy, and just he can't stop coming forward into the punches. Like it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild to see that. All he probably had to do was probably jab and then step back, like jab and step back, and he probably would have picked them off and had a pretty big advantage in that. But he just charged. He chucks it into the drive and keeps coming forward, eating punches, coming forward. That is going to be difficult against a guy like Colby. Colby will make him wrestle. It's a very intriguing fight just to see how Khamzat's wrestling stands up against Colby. Like I'm just interested to see if Colby can get him down, because we know how close Usman and Colby are, in terms of their like wrestling and how their wrestling exchanges go. So if we come out there and just Colby can't do anything to Khamzat, well, now I'm intrigued to see how the Usman fight plays out.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. It's just, Khamzat, man. I feel like he still needs like that fight against Colby to kind of really get our interests, peaked with that Usman fight.
It would. Like, we've seen how Colby stacks up against Usman. Like, I think that's like the real question, right? Like, if Khamzat goes out there and just dominates Colby and does a better job against him than Usman's been able to do, especially if he finishes him. Like, now there's intrigue. Now there's intrigue for that Usman fight. It gets people. You need to get people to ask the question, right? Like, people go, "Well, I wonder what would happen." Like that, Khamzat beating Colby makes people ask the question: What does he do against Usman? Like, how does this play out? How does his wrestling play out against Usman? Can he get Usman down? Like, this is the questions that you need to get people asking.
Yeah, it's exciting times though for the welterweight division, because Khamzat got the win. Now he's in like this position to where, like, okay, we're gonna possibly be able to get this Usman Khamzat fight soon. If he, if they win their next fights, right, it's gonna line up perfectly. Even if Leon wins, then I think that makes the road to the title much longer for, let's say, a Khamzat. But um, I think it will line up perfectly. For some reason, like, it just happens that way sometimes for the UFC. Um, yeah, so Khamzat proved a lot of shit to everybody, and Gilbert, he's still going to be there at that top 5 for a while. I think. I don't think that
Yeah,
this
for
breaks
sure,
anymore.
for sure. Like I don't feel like his stock has gone down any at all. I think just more showed the level that Hamza is competing on. I feel like that's all the fight really changed.
The last time we talked was like UFC 272, so a couple weeks have passed. So we haven't like spoken about the whole Covington and Masvidal thing. Like, I remember we,
No,
yeah, we haven't talked about that. Like, him actually getting attacked, and I don't think this is the first time. This is the third time he's been attacked by people. I remember the first time was Verdum in Australia. Did you fight on that card?
the
The one
boomerang.
when
Nah,
yeah,
I
the
was
boomerang.
in. I think I was injured or something. I was in New Zealand for some reason.
Okay, okay, and then he got attacked by Ali and Usman at that hotel buffet or whatever. They were like
Oh
waiting in
yeah, yeah.
line. Remember that? I think people forget about these incidences, and then now he's actually got snuffed. Right? He got snuffed by Masvidal, and Masvidal even said after the fight, after the pay-per-view fight, that last fight, that he's gonna catch him. And
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
people
yeah.
people are probably just like, oh, he's just saying that, but Masvidal's not that guy. He's the guy that will snuff you if he says he's gonna snuff you, and that's what happened, man. And there's a lot of outrage about it, like, you're a professional fighter and blah blah blah. But that's the word right there. He's a fighter, man, and you never know what people. I'm not saying it was right, but I'm just saying, like, that's what's gonna
What's your
happen. We
question?
knew.
Oh, yeah, but what's your
Yeah.
question? Like, don't talk a bunch of shit. Like that's, I don't know. It's on the fans, right? Like
Mhm.
they eat that shit up. To me, yeah, it's funny how people are still like flock to him. Like they know he's just got a big mouth. They know he's talking shit, but then on like the same hand, they know he's a little bitch. Like they know that if you challenge him to a fight in the car park, he's gonna say no, and if you punch him, he's gonna call the cops. Like that to me doesn't make sense. Like to me, that doesn't make sense. Like if I ever say anything to anyone, like, and anyone is offended, and anyone I bump into them and they go, Dan, like you said I was shit, and you've been saying a bunch of shit. Let's go sort this out in the car park. Like I'll go sort it out in the car park, and if you beat me up, that's fine. We sorted. Like that's done. You know what I mean? Like there's some people that, yeah, like they're actually about it. Like I would say it's on the fans, bro, that they know that he's all shit. They know that it's the same as Cejudo. Like he talks all this shit, bro. But the amount of guys I know that he's like, he'll say a bunch of shit, and then he'll send you a message and be like, hey, bro, like let's have some fun with this. Like let's go back and forth. Like what the fuck? Like you're just selling wolf tickets, bro. Like you're just actually just talking shit for the sake of it and like making shit up. Like it doesn't make sense to me. To me, like now that the fan like talk all the shit you want, but back it up if you know what I
Mhm.
mean. If a guy if like you've been saying all this wild shit about I'm with your missus, like I'm with like, oh, you've
Mhm.
crossed some lines, my friend. Like, you need to
Yeah.
let this go. You need to sort this out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, and he just doesn't. Like, he just calls the cops and turn tail and run. Like, if me as a fan, if I see a guy do that, I'm like, oh, well, this guy's full of shit. Like, I'm not gonna
Mhm.
follow him anymore. But so I would say it's like, I don't know. It's kind of on the fans for just accepting it and like letting it slide and being okay with being okay. Like, I don't know. Are you like pro wrestling fans or something like that? Like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. I will oblige like all the arguments I've had with fucking John Jones about nothing. Like if I ever see John Jones and he says Dan Hooker car park, I will car park. Like I'll go to the car park with John. I got no problem with it. I would never insult a man and not give him the opportunity to square that away. That's just not in my book. And if he beats me up in the car park, you sure as shit I'm not gonna fucking call the cops. That's the one thing that you can bank on.
That's a hell of a story right there. John Jones invites Dan Hooker to a car park.
Just one word, brother. Car park. Car park. Yeah. You think it's, mate, I got a big mouth. You think it's my first trip to the car park? It's not my first trip to the car park, my friend.
You're familiar with the car park.
You think I'm familiar with the car park. You think my MMA record's dog shit. Wait till you see my car park record, boys. Running 50-50.
Oh shit. Yeah, I don't really see many people going to the car park these days. Yeah,
it's not. It's old. It's old. Maybe I just have an old mentality. I don't know.
You do, but there's people that will oblige, and there's people that would be like, "Are you fucking crazy? Like, what? Why would I walk with you?"
Don't talk shit. Don't talk shit. Like that's.
But you know how it is. Like if you confront people, someone will be like, "Oh, it's just online. It's just online."
You don't want to go karma. Yeah, like I don't care. Like I'm one of the same. Like I just don't take notice of it. That's why people say that. They're like, "Oh man, how do you deal with like all the people talking shit?" And I was like, what? All the people talking shit? Like I live in reality. Like I hang up on this phone and I put this phone. I live in like the real world, and people are not so rude to a professional cage fighter in real life. Like if you take everything as real life, people aren't so rude. People don't say the kind of things that they say online in reality or in real life. Like it's a very different tune in real life. People are not rude in real life. They don't say a lot of wild things because I will give them the same speech. I'll say, brother, you insulted me, car park.
I got a great reality show that I need to pitch. It's called Dan's Car Park. And what you do is you take guys around or people around that want to like confront other people that have been talking shit online. And then they go up to him and be like, "Hey, you've been talking shit, car park."
I don't care. Like online.
Whatever.
Cares,
Yeah, whatever.
Right?
Yeah. But that's a possibly a TV show right there. Dan's Car Park. Let's get somebody writing that up. You know what I mean? Dan will host it. And if you don't finish the job, then he might have to come in and finish the job. But what other fights, man, on the card? Those are the top three. What'd you think about Ian Gary, man? It seems like he has somewhat, a little bit of hype.
He kind of figured it out. In the third round, right? Like he started getting a bit more in the third round. Like he started really reading it. First two rounds were like a lot closer. You know what I mean? I think I was getting something to drink for his post-fight speech. I saw him saying, I'll have to listen to it because they're saying he's the best on the mic since Conor McGregor and this and that. Like, oh, that's a big call, brother. That's a big call. All I've heard him is say how good on the mic he is. I haven't really heard people sharing some things he said on the mic, which is a bit of a difference. But nah, he's undefeated. He's winning. Good on the kid.
I'm gonna tell it right now. Chael Sonnen was the best on the mic. You go watch his compilation.
Best.
One of the funniest things you'll ever watch, and I could watch it multiple times. You know what I mean? It's just hilarious, like some of the things that he came up with, and he sprinkled in some of that pro wrestling and all that, and it was good, man. I'm not a pro wrestling fan, but I enjoyed what he was doing. You know what I mean? It was something different, and yeah, man, it's now he just got all these little babies, little baby Chaels everywhere.
You can't. Yeah, there's none as good. Like you're slick, Like Colby just says rude shit. Like he just says like wild shit. You know what I mean? Like he just says shit that crosses the line. Like the way that Chael used to get on the mic, and his rhymes and the way that he went at people was like second to none, but also like unappreciated at the time. Like a lot of people forget that Chael was like quite well hated at the time that he was fighting for these titles or coming
Yeah.
in and doing this. And it's only really been since he retired or stepped away and come into podcasting and things like that that people appreciate what he did and kind of miss what he did, or like people really went back and saw like, man, the level that he was doing that at is second to none, and it's pretty incredible. But yeah, underappreciated at the time for sure. But yeah, like for what he's done is just Chael's the best.
He
Chael's the best on the mic.
he he
I've,
he somehow, like a genie, got himself into a title shot at light heavyweight against John Jones. You know what I mean? Like
yes,
that just somehow happened for him, and it was
shoot
all
your shot.
because exactly, right? Exactly.
Shoot your shot.
And he almost beat him too.
Shoot your
Not by
shot.
like actually beating
Shoot
him,
your
but
shot.
John Jones had his toe sticking out his foot after that fight. If they would have caught that before the fight, it would have been over, and Chael would have been the undisputed light heavyweight champion by defeating John Jones. Imagine if the historic turn it would have went if that actually happened, with the belt. But it didn't happen, so we
That
can't
would have
talk
gone
about
good.
that.
He would have refused. He would have refused a
Refused.
rematch. Would have fought someone else.
He
He
would
would
have
have
fought a
refused the
bunch of
rematch.
people.
Like no, because he's scared of. Like he refused the rematch just as a joke. Like that was like
Yeah.
the funniest. That would be the funniest part about the joke. Just refuse the rematch, just to take the piss out of him.
Yeah, I think he would have done it, man. That's the type of dude he is. Any other fights that stuck out to you today?
I thought the Dern Torres fight was pretty good, man. I thought that was
Mhm.
like a really good fight. I thought that was some pretty crazy grappling exchanges back in that first round. I was like, man, Dern's like pressuring in, but almost like just reckless pressure. Like she got caught with a few solid overhands. Didn't look like she was making the adjustments. Ended up jumping guard. Like I couldn't decide what was crazy or funnier. Like not that she jumped guard, but that it worked. Like she jumped guard with nothing, found an arm,
Mhm.
started ripping the arm, damaged the arm like so badly that Torres couldn't throw it for the rest of the fight. Like I could just see her with that left arm like glued into her body. Like couldn't throw that. She couldn't throw that at all. It was pretty. Yeah, that was a wild fight.
That was a wild fight and a very close fight. A lot of people thought that Tisha was gonna be able to like get the range early and kind of like dictate the fight and move, through a clean decision. But man, Dern came back actually improving. What I mean, from her last fight, a lot. I thought
Yeah,
the
yeah, big
recklessness,
time.
yeah, the
She
recklessness is
needs to
just
sort that
part of it.
reckless out. It's like a little bit too far, bro. Like maybe like a heavier puncher. Like if
Yeah,
I know
that's
like a well, I know Andrade is not in the division anymore, no, but like running
no,
into like a person on that level, like
yeah,
Andrade or like even like a Nama Yunus, um the accuracy that she
yeah.
has in her shots, like a fighter like that with a little bit crisper punching would just sit it down. She needs to rectify kind of those holes in her game.
Yeah, yeah. I think she's been working on it for the past couple of years. It's just as we go and see. But the crazy part about her is that she's developing while fighting the best in the world, which is
Yeah, yeah.
nuts to me. It's not like she's like so advanced in striking and on the ground. She's just very advanced on the ground, and her striking is developing. So it's fun to watch. Yeah, this guy or this woman, I don't know, Elmi Tisha Torres robbery. And I don't know if that was a robbery. That was a close fight. There was a couple close fights. The Aljamain Sterling Pidyon fight
Yeah, I
was
don't
close
know.
fight. You know what I mean? There weren't robberies at all.
Yeah, the few clues like I had a Torres. Yeah, that's a hard one, right? Like Torres with the first, definitely Dern with the second, and then the third was close. I feel like Torres landed more strikes, but like she was damaged, right? Like she couldn't. I think Dern got a takedown I can't really recall, but yeah, close. You can't have a fight that close be a
Yeah,
robbery.
and also some people
Now you
thought
just
Stern won the
now you're
first
just
round.
talking. Now you're just talking wild. Now you're just talking
Yeah,
wild.
it is wild. Um, any other fights that you thought it was good on this card? Any other
Well,
performance?
considering those are all of the fights that I watched on the card.
Oh, those are.
I watched all of them. Only watch. I'm talking about every fight I've watched. So there better not have been any good fights, or else I am in the shit because my
Well,
preparation.
all right. Well, I guess let's talk about next week. Next week there's a fight night card happening. It's Vicente Luque and Bilal Muhammad rematch. Vicente in the first fight a few years back, I believe a minute and a half into the first round, he got the TKO. Now they're in different positions now. Title shots are on the line, or one fight from a title or whatever. What do you
Mm.
see? Whatever. Do you follow? Have you been following these guys?
Oh, Vicente Luque is beast. I like his style. Yeah, I like him. I like him a lot. I feel like he's a pretty incredible. He's a pretty incredible athlete, pretty incredible fighter. Yeah, it's a funny one. Like we talk about styles, and just some styles have like the key components that can counter other styles quite well. I feel like this is like the position that we have. Vicente Luque's just his boxing is a level above Belil, and Belil like uses his boxing to set up his wrestling and get his pressure off. So it's just like, yeah, I feel like, and that's a hard thing to overcome as well. To be knocked out in a position like that, and then to overcome that or change the course of something like that is like really difficult.
Yeah, he's done a great job. I mean, it's not like he's like the flashiest guy or a guy that's going in there and getting like huge knockouts or crazy submissions. It's just like he's a guy that goes in there and wins and makes the right
Mm,
adjustments. Like his last fight, he just a lot of people thought he just took Gilbert Burns's game plan and beat Stephen Boy Thompson even better than Gilbert Burns did,
yeah,
and that's pretty much what he did. You know what I mean? So with Bilal, man, I feel like this is his chance to kind of get to that next step. You know what I mean? Like in that welterweight division, like get to that point where it's like, okay, this guy's a legit prospect, or not prospect, contender. Right now I don't know if he's that like to the level of like a Gilbert Burns or anything like that. I feel like he's kind of like one notch below. But with the win or
mm,
even finishing Vicente Luque, yeah, he's gonna be up there. He's gonna be fighting and clawing. His name is in the mix, like people like to say. Um, Stylistically, Luque, who doesn't like watching Vicente Luque fight? You know what I mean? Like the dude is just submission or knockout. You know what I mean? Unless you know how to neutralize him. And the funny thing is, Wonder Boy neutralized him and beat him. Uh,
mm.
15 minutes, pretty dominant. Can Bilal do that with his skill set? What do you think?
That's a that's a pretty different style going
Exactly, right?
Belil
Yeah.
bin Muhammad to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Like then, yeah, that's like the funny thing that people get. They're like, well, this guy's ranked 5 and this guy's ranked 7. Like, shouldn't the number 5 be? It's like, nah, that's not how this works. That's not at all how this works. Like those are two completely different styles. That's stylistically, that's a hard matchup for Vicente Luque because he's like subtle. A lot of his movements are subtle, like getting his strikes off. Like
Mhm.
because Stephen Thompson is so good at covering distance in and out, changing angles, cutting distance like that for Vicente Luque is a hard stylistic matchup to overcome. But Belil Muhammad is a lot easier stylistic matchup for him to overcome. Like they both play the same game. Belil's using his hands to use his striking to set up his takedowns, and Vicente Luque uses his hands and defends wrestling. Like they just match up together incredibly well.
Yeah, yeah, it's a fun matchup, man. I like it.
It's a fun
I like
fight
to
for
see,
sure.
yeah, I like to see what Bilal can do. You know what I mean? I
Who's
feel
the
like
co? Who's the co-main? Who's the co on that card? What's some other fights on that one?
I don't know what the co-main is. I don't think this is the co-main. I think like the co-main is not even determined yet.
What? We can't do that. It's tomorrow. Oh, it's next week.
Yeah, but like you said, if it's not 5 rounds, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like I don't see what the co-main is. But when you look at some of the fights, Jakar Close is coming back. This is his first fight since the whole Jeremy Stevens thing, where he got pushed and got whiplash, and then he had to pull out the fight. And now he's coming back and fighting Brendan Jenkins. Did you train with Brendan Jenkins at Syndicate?
Yeah.
I think you did, right? I think you did. Yeah. So he's fighting Jakar Close.
That's a good fight. Like that's a pretty big name for him, right? He's had a fight in the UFC, yeah.
Yeah, one fight he lost by TKO in the 3rd round, and then now he's getting Jakar Close, who just fought Beneil Dariush in his last fight, which is wild matchmaking right there.
Pretty big step up in competition. That's crazy. But Jenkins, I think his fight name is the Human Highlight Reel. Like that's a pretty good fight name. You gotta like live up. You gotta really live up to the hype. If your name's a Human Highlight Reel, like that's pretty big. That's pretty good. That's pretty cool. That's a big step up, though. I'm excited to see that fight.
Yeah, he said Jenkins. He did an interview with Sasha, right? And in the interview, he said that he put on 9 pounds of muscle with the help of the PI. The PI helped him put on 9 pounds of muscle. Like I guess he was lacking muscle for the division. So 9 pounds is a lot of weight to be adding,
right?
That's
a lot of weight.
Especially,
that's a lot of weight.
Muscle. I wonder how that.
That's a lot of weight, just like me, baby. Hey.
You know how they always have the Australian beef? Do they have the New Zealand beef? Do they have that? Is that like a delicacy? You know, like how they always sell Australian beef? What about the New Zealand beef? I just wanted to know.
New Zealand beef is much better than Australian beef.
Right.
Everyone knows this.
All
right.
Delicacy.
Best beef in the world. It's the best beef in the world.
Are you a grass fed? Like that's how you roll, grass fed and all that.
That was funny. When I first started going. When I first went to America, and the meat had grass fed written on it. I was like, that's strange. Like grass fed. I was like, and I saw it was like more expensive than the other one. I was like, grass fed. I was like, why is it written on this thing? I was like, what else do they eat? I was like, cows eat grass. I was like, I'd never seen. From New Zealand, I'd never seen a cow eat anything except grass. So I was like, and then they explained to me, nah, our cows eat corn and shit. I was like, what? I was mind blown. That blew my mind. I was like, why have you written it on the packet? I was like, obviously they just eat grass. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
You gotta pay extra for your cows to eat grass. Our cows just eat grass. Like we don't write that on any of our things. Like our animals eat grass.
I don't think I've ever even eaten a grass-fed beef or anything like that. Like I don't really care about it. It's just like
come on. What are you talking
Is it better?
about?
I don't know. Like
it's way better.
Okay, tasting too?
Way better.
Right.
Much like the quality of the meat is unbeatable. It's unmatched, brother.
All right. Well, we'll see.
What are you going on this week? You got your training? What are you training?
This week is more fitness and throwing some jiu-jitsu here and there, and then
Alex is the head coach there, yeah, for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, Alex is there, and Josh Hinger's here actually.
He's still there. I saw him.
No, he just got back.
Oh yeah.
He left and came back, I believe.
He missed it so much he came back. That's wild.
I don't know if he went home. He's been traveling a lot. I think he's been like all over the place, like Europe and like Australia and.
He just went away. He just went away to do some seminars.
Probably, but he's here now, so I get to learn from Josh Hinger, which is kind of cool. You know what I mean? Like I never expected that. Yeah, and Master Yard. You know Master Yard?
Yeah.
Master Yard. He's the head Muay Thai instructor over there at Bang Tao. Master
Bang
Yard.
Tao's stepping up in the world. When is the opening party? I know they got a big opening party coming up. April
In
something.
2 weeks, I believe. In 2 weeks, yeah, they're trying to have a huge
I wanted to
event.
come over. I wanted to come over. But on the same hand, I'm also sick of traveling and getting on a plane. So
Yeah,
that's my major thing holding me back from traveling to Thailand is that I don't want to see a plane for the next 6 months. I tell you that.
yeah. I couldn't imagine. The I saw that picture that you put up of like where you've been flying and shit for the past.
The whole way around the world. Not halfway, not 3/4 of the way. I flew the whole way around the world.
I know, a couple times,
Shit
man.
idea. Shit idea. I thought at the time, I was like, this is probably a shit idea. Way worse idea than I ever thought. Shit
All right,
idea.
going back to actually Volk's in the press conference right now, but I can't hear what he's saying. But when you rank like featherweights, like where would you rank the Korean Zombie? I feel like if he stops fighting, right? If he doesn't fight anymore, and that's a big possibility, this might be his last fight. We might not see him again. Um, where would you rank him? Do you think he's like top 15 ever in that division at UFC?
Everyone's gonna have their own kind of thing. I can't say. I like personally, you can't say where someone sits in the list of everyone. Like that's everyone. Everyone's gonna have a completely different list. He'll definitely be top 5 for me. Like his Korean Zombie's been, um, yeah, like one of those guys, right? Like he don't really say much, and he just sells fights with the way he fights, right? Like his style sells the fights. Like he's the zombie, right? Like he eats shots, he walks guys down, he puts on incredible performances. So for me, and for that is definitely top 5 of all time.
Yeah, just the action packed, just main events. I think that was just like 8th straight main event.
Yeah,
That's crazy,
wild.
dude.
That's
That is
crazy.
crazy. Like you're training for 5-round fights every camp, and most of them are not title fights. That's dedication right there, man. The UFC, they need to give him a job if he retires as just like a face of Asian MMA or some crazy shit. I don't know. Just make up a job, like they did for
Make
Chuck
it
Liddell.
top.
Just like
Yeah, but then didn't they fire him?
yeah. Well,
Then they like scrap his job and like not tell him. He just shows up to work like, oh, I don't have office anymore.
that's exactly. It's just like, hey, it's gone.
Then he had to fight. Then he had to fight Tito Ortiz again.
Yeah, that was and then all of a sudden he's back at ringside at UFC shows again.
He's
It
always
goes full
man.
circle.
You see him do some pretty funny shit. I was like out back with like Volk and that, and then I was like watching the fight, but the team had gone out, and like Chuck comes in. He looked pretty pissed at that point, and he just walks in like oh, and he was just like looking for the toilet, but he was like super chopped, bro. Like just walking around. Well, he gets like a green light when he goes to UFC events. He can walk wherever he wants, piss wherever he wants. And I second that notion. Chuck Liddell can piss wherever he wants at the UFC.
Yeah, Chuck is he's embedded. He's etched in history, especially with the UFC. They love him. He's big part of like their boom right at the start. So,
100%.
Hey, before we go off,
he was like the first superstar, right?
Yeah, most likely. You know what I mean? Like I feel like he kind of moved the needle, so to say, more than anybody else at that time. We got about 10 minutes left. Let's talk about London. How was London? Like the fans in London, because you're out there for a couple of weeks, right? Ahead of the fight. So how was the fans? The interaction?
I was there like a week before fight week, and we went out to Birmingham. Had like a friend of mine, Silk. He's come over and trained at City Kickboxing with the guys, so he came over to City Kickboxing to Auckland. That's how we kind of had that connection. So then when I was going over to England, that was like he had a gym which he trains in Birmingham, which is called like Ronan MMA. So he picked me up and stuff. We went to Birmingham. I was hung out in there for a week, just kind of changing and kind of training there and finding my bearings, trying to adjust to the time and stuff like that. It was good. Like the people were cool. Then we went into fight week in London, and yeah, like the fans were pretty cool, man. They're pretty like really engaged. Like they were just cool to see. They were just excited to see you over there, and appreciated you kind of making the trip out. So it was a pretty cool experience. Like the fans were awesome.
Did you feel like it was a little bit different? Because it feels like what is it? In the UK, like the fandom is like it is like maybe in America and Brazil. You know what I mean? There's certain countries where it's like the fans are really incredible. Did you get that vibe when you were there?
I don't know. Maybe that's just like me. I don't really view just people as like, I don't think they were like super like fanny. I just view them as like people, people coming up and saying hi. Like, I don't really just like look at them like, oh, this is a fan. I'm just like, oh, this guy's, oh, yeah, hey,
Yeah.
Dan, how you going? And you're just like, oh, yeah, cheers, bro. Like, nah, cool. Like, I just view them as like, I feel like you only get like this. Yeah, there's sometimes you get like the super weird fans that are like,
They're
I don't
following you.
like the fake. I don't like the fake over the top thing.
Yeah.
But they're just like, oh my gosh, like I don't like that. Like, but when people just come and talk to you like a normal person, I think that's like quite cool. And that's what like the English fans were like. They were pretty. They were cool. Just hey, can we grab a pic? And you're just like, yeah, sweet, that's easy. Like grab a picture, no worries.
For sure. No, nobody ever followed you around like during fight week. I don't know. I've heard things like that before. Like just fans, they figure out like where you're staying eventually, and then like it's just
No, like they hang
whatnot.
out outside the. That's no matter where, whatever country you go. They find out the host hotel for the thing, and they just come down and just like hang out and wait to catch some fighters. It's a pretty smart thing to do if you're a super fan, just just stand outside the entrance of the phone. Like the fighters are gonna come and go from the host hotel, of course. There's like a couple of the guys that are like eaters, like they'll come with like this. So like people come with like stuff to sign. They're like, oh,
Mhm.
thank you, sign, and they got like the little cards with you on it. Like they're all cool. And then this one guy's like, or like someone will come with like a picture of you, and yeah, sweet, like just sign it. That's easy. But this one guy's like, oh, dang, can you sign some pictures? I was like, yeah, all right. Like sign. And then he's like, oh yeah, another one, sign, sign. And then I look at the stack, bro, and this guy's got like a stack of like 50. And I was like, brother, like, are you a fan or are you just gonna sell these? He goes, yeah, I'll just sell them on eBay. I was like, fuck. I was like, I'll give you 10. All right. Sign, sign. I said, I'll give you 10. He's like, oh, can I get the rest of them tomorrow? I was thinking, fuck off. Like, you're not even a fan. You know what I mean? Like, you're just looking
Yeah.
at us as like an easy buck. Like, that changes the tune a bit, I think.
Yeah, and I think those are not fans. You're right. They're people trying to make money off your signatures. Like, and you could tell who they are. They're carrying fucking shit. A
Yeah,
fan
like
might have like a
50,
T-shirt or something. You know what I mean?
50
Picture.
shares is like, I'll give
Yeah.
like, yeah, three, 5. You're probably reaching a bit far. Like, you don't get
Yeah.
more. You need 5 signed things. But 50 pictures of the same picture too. I was like, brother, I'll give you
Even
10. Like,
five.
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I was like, I'll give you 10. I feel like that's a fair, you made the trip down here. You printed all these bloody things out. I'll give you 10, cover your costs, make a little bit of money, but you're not a fan. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
How's life with the family back? You know what I mean? I knew that
Oh,
you were
good.
away with them for a few months.
Good.
This
I
was the
went
first time you
to,
saw them, right? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, this year, because they, in the last year in Vegas, they came to Australia. And then I came
Mhm.
home to New Zealand to do the spike camp. So, yeah, then after London, I flew straight to Canberra, where her family is, and just hung out there for another week. And then, yeah, we come home, and I've been back in New Zealand for just about over a week now.
Mhm.
So it's been really cool to be home, especially home with the family. So yeah, it's just being surrounded by your mates and just with the family has been
Yeah,
cool, man.
definitely. You know, like one thing that I think I have to deal with while I'm over here alone is like loneliness. I think because I think when I was younger, I didn't really get like alone too much. But now that I've been living with my wife and my kid, you know, for like over a decade, right? You kind of get used to them being with you at home. Now that I'm
Yeah,
by
yeah,
myself, it's
yeah,
kind
for
of a
sure.
weird feeling, right? Like I'm like, man, what do I do? You know, because they fill in the gaps during the day a lot of the time, you know, of your life.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I mean?
sure.
Like
Like
work.
mine would have been like say, like I didn't have them for like I came back to New Zealand, but then I had to do like a 2 week quarantine and then like 7 week training camp and then fly back out for 2 weeks in London. So yeah, it was only like 7 weeks at home by myself, and that was like weird, you know. Like you're just like sitting at home, like used to it being noisy, used to
Yeah.
stuff being carrying on, or like always watching fucking Peppa Pig on the TV or
Yeah.
some shit, you know, like. And then you can watch whatever you want, and you're just like, I'm bored, you know, like
Yeah.
where are they? Where's the noise? Where's the life? So yeah, it's the life. Like even though I had, training, I feel like the training camp was the only thing that allowed me to stay focused. You know, you're training, just eat, sleep, train, eat, sleep, training. So it definitely sped that 7 week period up for sure.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm going to run into is like, man, I'm kind of, you know, I guess when you're older, you start thinking about that a little bit more of like, oh, who's going to be with me when I'm old? But right now it's like, I'm not really feeling lonely, but I can see that happening. You know what I mean? Like when I was thinking last week, like, you know, being alone for so long, but I think I'll go back like in the middle somewhere, you know, 'cause you got to see them, you know what I mean, if you can. So I got to go back
Yeah,
and
yeah,
see
have
my
to, have
family
to, have
and you know, feel the vibes and then come back and
to.
get into that hardcore training camp. But yeah, man, anyways, this last show, UFC, Australia, the belt stays with Australia and
Nice.
Aljamain. He solidified himself, I think, with this fight as the champ, man. Like clearly he's the champ. Like there's no arguments.
Got a
There's no like
belt.
paper champ. Huh?
Won it now, like won it now. Won it fair and
Yeah.
square, man. Won it fair and
Yeah.
square. No one can say anything. Yeah, no one can argue that one. He's the champ now.
He is. And Hamzat, he proved that he's a legit contender and we'll see what happens with him. Dan, life is back to normal for you, which is good, man. You got the business going.
Um,
Everything's cool, right? Like everything's like movement, all that, like getting into the country, getting out the country is all good now, right?
yeah, yeah. Like we just opened up, like a couple of weeks back, man,
Mhm.
and it's just gold. Like I came back to New Zealand. You just got to come back with like a negative test. They give you some rat test at the border, and you just do one on day 1 and day 5. Like that compared with 2 week quarantine is
Yeah,
it's a whole different world. It's a whole different
exactly.
world. So it's good. Yeah, it's good that everything can finally, after all these years, like things finally get back to normal.
Exactly. With that said, let's shut it down. Thank you everybody for watching. Make sure to subscribe, share, like, all that stuff. Leave a comment if you want to, if you're watching the replay. And we'll get back to you guys next weekend after the show.